There comes a moment in every life when the silence inside grows louder than the noise outside, when we begin to sense that all our striving for love, approval, and belonging has been a chase after shadows. We have been searching for mirrors in other people's eyes, hoping they might show us who we are, while all along the truest reflection waited patiently within. The tragedy is not that others fail to love us as we wish, but that we have abandoned the sacred duty of loving ourselves. You see, the world does not meet you as it is, it meets you as you are. Every person you attract is drawn to the frequency of your own self-regard. If you walk through life aching for validation, you will summon those who feed on your hunger. But if you learn to stand in quiet communion with your own soul, unashamed and whole, you will begin to notice a curious alchemy. The right people, those who see not just your mask, but your essence, will find their way to you, as if pulled by an unseen thread woven deep in the fabric of being. It is not arrogance to love yourself, it is remembrance. For to love yourself is to return home to the only place from which true connection can ever begin. We spend so much of our lives standing at the gates of other people's hearts, knocking, waiting, hoping to be let in. We look into their eyes, hungry for reflection, desperate to see that we matter, that we are beautiful, that we are enough. And yet every time the door closes, every time love slips through our fingers, we blame the world for being unkind, forgetting that the emptiness we feel was not born from absence, but from neglect, our own neglect of self. The truth is quietly devastating. The love we crave from others is often the love we have never learned to give ourselves. Most of us are taught from an early age to direct our affection outward, to be kind, to please, to give, to serve, but rarely are we taught the sacred art of turning that affection inward. We learn to equate self-love with vanity, to mistake self-respect for arrogance, and so we become emotional beggars, carrying empty cups from one relationship to another, asking, "Will you fill me? Will you make me feel whole?" But no one can pour into a vessel that leaks from the inside. Until we seal those cracks with compassion, forgiveness, and gentleness toward ourselves, no amount of love from others will ever be enough. Self-love is not a luxury, it is survival. It is the quiet decision to treat your soul as something worthy of care. It is choosing to look at your flaws and not flinch, to face your mistakes and not define yourself by them. When you begin to love yourself, you stop chasing validation like a starving animal and start walking with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth. The right people feel that energy, they sense it before you speak. You no longer demand to be loved. You invite it effortlessly by existing as someone who already is . But to reach that place, you must dare to meet yourself. That is the hardest part, to stand before the mirror and see not only your reflection, but the years of self-doubt, the wounds, the masks, the moments when you abandoned your own truth to be accepted. It takes courage to embrace the child within you who still fears rejection, to whisper to them that they are safe now. Loving yourself is not about erasing your scars, it's about realizing they are the proof that you survived. When you turn inward and begin to nurture that love, something remarkable happens. Your relationships transform. You no longer tolerate disrespect disguised as affection, nor confusion disguised as passion. You stop confusing attention for love. You begin to choose differently. Because you are no longer seeking completion, you are seeking resonance. And only those who vibrate at the same frequency of self-respect and authenticity will remain in your orbit. The paradox of love is that the more you chase it outside yourself, the further it runs. But the moment you cultivate it within, it begins to flow toward you in ways you never imagined. You start attracting people who reflect your wholeness, not your wounds. They see you not as a refuge from their own emptiness, but as a mirror of their own growth. The love you seek has never been lost. It has been waiting patiently beneath your self-criticism, beneath the years of pretending to be less so others could feel more. It lives in the space between your breaths, in the quiet moments when you finally allow yourself to be enough, and when you begin to love yourself fully. Without condition, you no longer wait for others to show you your worth. You become the proof of it. There is a quiet law that governs every human connection, a hidden current shaping who enters our lives and who drifts away. It is not luck, nor coincidence, nor the fickle will of fate. It is belief. Not the kind spoken in words, but the kind etched deep within the psyche, the silent conviction of what we think we deserve. You can spend your days whispering your desires to the universe, but if deep down you believe you are unworthy of love, it will turn its face away. Because the truth is simple and inescapable, you do not attract what you want, you attract what you believe you deserve. Look closely, and you will see this law written across every failed relationship, every repetition of pain, every pattern you swore you would never repeat. You find yourself drawn to the same kind of person, the one who makes you feel unseen, unheard, or too much, and you wonder why. But it is not punishment, it is reflection. The world mirrors your inner beliefs with painful precision. Until you rewrite that belief, you will keep meeting the same lesson in a different body, the same wound wearing a new face. We like to imagine love as something we stumble upon, as if it were a wildflower that blooms by chance. But love is not random, it is magnetic. And your self-worth is the field that determines what you pull toward you. When you see yourself as inadequate, you invite those who confirm it. When you see yourself as worthy, you draw those who celebrate it. Your relationships are not accidents, they are teachers, showing you the story you tell about yourself when no one is listening. Belief is subtle but powerful. It lives in the way you hesitate to ask for what you need, the way you downplay your achievements, the way you accept crumbs when you deserve the feast. It's the small compromises that whisper, I am afraid this is all I can get. But when you begin to challenge that belief, when you dare to say, I deserve better, you send a new signal into the world. And suddenly, what once felt out of reach begins to draw nearer. People who once seemed impossible to meet start appearing, not because the world changed, but because you did. To believe you deserve love is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the natural result of seeing yourself clearly, without distortion. You stop trying to prove your worth and start embodying it. You begin to walk through the world as though love is not something to be earned, but something that already lives within you, waiting to be matched. And those who cannot meet you at that level simply fall away, not with bitterness, but with quiet inevitability. There is profound freedom in realizing that your relationships are not determined by chance, but by consciousness. When you raise your self-worth, you change the gravitational pull of your life. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop shrinking to fit into small places and begin to expand into the fullness of your being. Every person you meet is a mirror reflecting the vibration of your own belief. If you wish to attract love that is deep, kind, and true, then you must first become its source, because love does not come to the one who waits, it comes to the one who believes they are already worthy of receiving it. There is a quiet ache in the human heart, a longing to be seen without disguise, to be loved without the performance of perfection. Yet, somewhere along the way, we were taught that love is earned through flawlessness. We polish ourselves, edit our words, hide our rough edges, and call it self-improvement. But beneath that surface, the soul grows weary. Because the truth is, perfection does not attract love, it repels it. What draws people close is not your perfection, but your wholeness, your willingness to stand as you are, unguarded and real. We live in a world obsessed with images, where even our pain must be aesthetically pleasing, where every flaw must be softened by a filter. We spend so much energy curating our lives that we forget how to inhabit them. And yet, real connection only happens when two people meet in the space beyond pretense, when your cracks speak to mine and say, I see you. Wholeness is not about fixing yourself until you shine. It is about embracing the light and shadow together, realizing that both are essential to your humanity. Every time you hide your imperfections, you build a wall between yourself and others. You may be admired, even praised, but you will not be truly known. To be perfect is to be untouchable, and nothing genuine can grow in the absence of touch. But when you allow others to witness your struggles, your doubts, your unfinished parts, something miraculous happens. Authenticity calls to authenticity. You give others permission to be human, and in that shared vulnerability, love finds fertile ground. Carl Jung once wrote that people do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The same is true of love. It does not flourish in the fantasy of who we pretend to be. It grows in the soil of who we really are. To be whole is to meet yourself with radical honesty, to look at the parts you have rejected and say, you belong here too. It is from that acceptance that your presence gains gravity, drawing the right people toward you like stars pulled by an unseen orbit. Perfection demands performance. Wholeness invites peace. When you stop trying to impress and start trying to understand yourself, you begin to attract people who resonate with your truth rather than your facade. They are not drawn to the mask you wear, they are drawn to the energy beneath it, to the stillness that comes from self-acceptance. You will notice that conversations deepen, laughter becomes easier, and silence no longer feels like a threat. Love begins to breathe again because it no longer needs to pretend a dot. And perhaps the most liberating part of all is realizing that wholeness does not mean you are always happy, confident, or certain. It means you allow space for your contradictions, that you can hold your joy and sorrow in the same palm without apology. It is this emotional depth that others are drawn to, not the illusion of perfection, but the courage to live openly in imperfection. When you choose wholeness, you stop searching for people to complete you, because you already are. And those who come into your life will not arrive to fill your emptiness, but to share in your fullness. They will love you not despite your imperfections, but through them, for they will recognize in your humanness the reflection of their own. That is the quiet miracle of authentic love. It begins the moment you stop striving to be perfect and start daring to be whole. There is a strange paradox in the search for love. The harder you try to be liked, the less likable you become. The more you chase approval, the further real connection slips away. It is as if the soul senses the desperation behind your smile, the quiet plea in your gestures. Please see me, please choose me, please stay. But love born from the hunger for validation is not love at all. It is dependency dressed in devotion. And the moment you stop chasing approval, When you finally dare to stand as you are, you become magnetic in ways no performance could ever achieve. The approval seeking is the silent thief of authenticity. It teaches you to measure your worth through the eyes of others, to shrink or stretch depending on what will earn applause. You begin to live in fragments, bits of yourself scattered across people's expectations. And though you may be surrounded by admirers, you will still feel profoundly alone, because the love you receive is not for who you are, but for the role you play. There is no freedom in being adored for your disguise, but when you stop living for the echo of others' opinions, you step into your own gravity. You no longer need to prove your value, you embody it. The people who once intimidated you lose their power, and those who once drained you fade into the background. Something subtle yet extraordinary begins to happen. You stop chasing and start attracting. Real connection is drawn to authenticity the way a flame draws moths. People feel it often before they can name it. Calm steadiness of someone who no longer needs to beg for belonging. Not to stop chasing approval is to reclaim your energy. Every moment spent wondering, what do they think of me? Is a moment stolen from the question that truly matters. What do I think of myself? When you answer that question with honesty and compassion, you stop living as a reflection of other people's preferences. You begin to express your truth, even when it trembles. And in that truth, you radiate a quiet strength that cannot be faked. It is not arrogance to stop seeking validation. It is liberation. You are not required to twist yourself into shapes to be accepted. You are not meant to dilute your voice to fit into rooms that cannot hold your depth. When you release the need to be liked, you create space for love that is real, raw, and resonant. You invite those who value the unfiltered you, who see beauty in your sincerity rather than perfection in your performance. There is a profound stillness in self-assurance. It does not shout. It does not demand attention. It simply exists. And in its existence, it draws others near. This is the quiet magnetism of authenticity. It asks for nothing, yet it attracts everything aligned with it. People will find themselves drawn to your presence, not because you please them, but because you remind them of something they've lost the courage to be themselves. And so you learn that love is not earned through effort, it arrives through alignment. When you stop chasing approval, you no longer run after people, you walk with yourself. And those who are meant to walk beside you will appear naturally, drawn not by your performance, but by your truth, for it is not perfection that makes you magnetic. It is the rare, steady light of someone who no longer needs permission to shine. There is a silence that most people run from, the kind that settles in when the noise fades, when the messages stop, when there is no one left to distract you from yourself. We call it loneliness, and we treat it like an enemy. We fill it with voices, screens, and company that asks nothing of us except that we stay distracted. But loneliness, when faced with love instead of fear, transforms into something entirely different. When you begin to love yourself, that silence ceases to be empty, it becomes sacred. Loneliness turns into solitude, and solitude, when embraced, becomes strength. The fear of being alone is rooted in the belief that without others, we are incomplete. We measure our worth by who chooses to stay beside us, forgetting that true companionship begins with the person in the mirror. You can be surrounded by people and still feel painfully alone if you are estranged from yourself. But when you learn to enjoy your own presence, when your thoughts stop feeling like a prison and start sounding like a conversation with an old friend, the emptiness fades. You begin to realize that solitude is not the absence of love, it is the space where love grows its roots. Loving yourself changes the way you inhabit your aloneness. It shifts the tone of your inner voice from criticism to compassion. You start to notice that silence has texture, that stillness carries wisdom. You find beauty in simple moments, a walk without purpose, a meal eaten in peace, the quiet hum of your own heartbeat reminding you that you are here, that you are enough. In this space, you no longer wait for someone to fill the void. You realize the void was never real, only a reflection of the love you withheld from yourself. That solitude is not a punishment. It is a teacher. It shows you who you are when no one is watching, what you truly desire when no one is influencing you, what dreams whisper beneath the noise of the world. It strips away the illusions of dependency and reveals the foundation of your being. And from that foundation, strength rises, not the loud, forceful kind, but the quiet, grounded strength that does not beg, chase, or cling. It is the strength of someone who knows they can stand alone and still feel whole. When you fall in love with your own company, something beautiful happens. You stop settling for relationships that diminish you just to avoid being alone. You stop fearing endings because you know that your peace does not depend on another's presence. You stop needing constant reassurance because you trust your own worth. And that is when you begin to attract people who add to your life instead of filling it, who meet you not out of need, but out of mutual wholeness. There is power in learning to sit with yourself and not feel restless. In a world addicted to distraction, that kind of peace is revolutionary. It does not mean you no longer crave connection. It means you no longer confuse connection with escape. You can love others deeply, passionately, and freely, without losing yourself in the process, because you have already found home within that. When you love yourself enough to embrace solitude, loneliness no longer frightens you. It becomes a sacred space, a place where your strength is forged, where your clarity sharpens, and where your love matures into something unshakable. For in the quiet company of your own soul, you discover the most enduring truth. You were never alone. You were simply waiting to meet yourself. Most people spend their entire lives running from the parts of themselves they don't want to see. They bury their anger beneath politeness, their fear beneath confidence, their pain beneath laughter. They build their personalities like walls, each brick a defense against rejection, judgment, or shame. But what they don't realize is that everything they hide continues to shape their lives in secret. The shadow you refuse to face doesn't disappear, it rules you from the dark. And until you embrace that shadow, every relationship you form will be a reflection of your denial rather than your truth. The shadow is not evil, it is simply the part of you that longs to be acknowledged. It is the sum of your suppressed emotions, your unmet needs, your hidden desires, your unspoken truths. It is the voice you silence when you want to appear good, calm, or strong. Yet this very voice is what holds the key to your authenticity. To love yourself fully is to turn toward this darkness, to face it without flinching, and to say, you are part of me too. Because until you do, you will keep projecting it onto others, blaming them for what you have not healed within yourself. Every conflict in a relationship reveals a mirror. The traits you despise in others often point to what you have disowned in yourself. When you are irritated by someone's arrogance, perhaps it touches your own unexpressed need to be seen. When you resent someone's emotional intensity, maybe it echoes your own repressed sensitivity. The world outside you is not against you, it is showing you the places inside that still crave integration. Jung understood this deeply. What we resist persists. The shadow demands attention until it is met with love. Embracing your shadow is an act of radical honesty. It means admitting that you are capable of jealousy, pride, insecurity, and cruelty, but also of tenderness, courage, and forgiveness. It means refusing to split yourself into good and bad, lovable and unlovable. The moment you stop hiding your darkness, you stop performing goodness and start living in truth. And from that truth, a new kind of connection becomes possible, one that is not built on pretense, but on realness. When you live authentically, you no longer need to curate your image or seek validation through perfection. You attract people who can hold both your light and your dark without fear, because you have learned to do so yourself. They see you not as an ideal, but as a whole being, and in that acceptance, love deepens. Vulnerability becomes strength, honesty becomes intimacy, and imperfection becomes the language of trust. The beauty of embracing your shadow is that it liberates not only you, but everyone around you. Your acceptance of yourself gives others permission to do the same. You stop judging so harshly because you recognize that everyone is wrestling with their own unseen depths. You start to listen more gently, love more compassionately, and forgive more easily. Relationships cease to be a battlefield of projections and become instead a meeting of two souls, each walking toward their own wholeness. The path to authenticity is not about polishing the surface, it is about diving into the depths and reclaiming what was left behind. Your shadow is not your enemy, it is your guide. It leads you back to the forgotten chambers of your heart, where fragments of your true self still wait to be seen. And when you finally gather those fragments into the light, you become whole again. For only when you embrace your shadow can you truly invite authenticity into every relationship you touch. There is an invisible current that flows through every interaction, every conversation, every room you enter. It is not something you can see or measure, yet everyone feels it, the energy you carry. Long before you speak, you are already communicating through it. It is the quiet vibration of your being, the emotional atmosphere surrounding you, shaped by what you believe about yourself. And when you accept yourself truly, deeply, without condition, you begin to radiate an energy that acts like a compass. The right souls, the ones meant for your path, recognize it instinctively. They are drawn not to your appearance, your achievements, or your charm, but to the calm, steady frequency of your authenticity. That energy does not lie. You can speak all the right words, wear all the right smiles, perform every act of kindness, but if beneath it all there lingers self-rejection, others will sense it. The energy of need pushes love away, while the energy of self-acceptance invites it in. When you doubt your worth, you unconsciously attract people who confirm that doubt. But when you stand in quiet harmony with yourself, you no longer seek external proof, you emanate it. The energy you send out becomes a silent invitation for others who are aligned with your truth to step forward. Self-acceptance is not a single moment, it is a constant practice of returning to yourself. It means no longer apologizing for your sensitivity, your ambition, your peculiarities. It means embracing your contradictions and allowing your presence to exist without defense. People who vibrate at the same frequency will feel at ease around you. Those who do not will simply drift away. There is no rejection in this, only resonance. The universe has its own way of aligning those who are ready to meet each other in truth. When you begin to accept yourself fully, your relationships change in ways that feel almost mystical. You stop needing to chase connection because you become connection itself, a steady source of warmth and calm. Others sense it not in what you say, but in how they feel in your presence. They relax, they open, they trust. This is the power of self-acceptance. It creates a field of safety around you, an invisible sanctuary where honesty and intimacy can flourish. You see, your energy teaches others how to treat you. If you radiate insecurity, you invite correction. If you radiate guilt, you attract judgment. But when you radiate self-respect, you attract respect. When you radiate peace, you invite peace. Your energy becomes both a mirror and a filter. It reflects what you are within, and it filters out what no longer belongs. That is why loving yourself is never selfish. It is the most generous thing you can do for the world. Because when you are whole, you bring harmony to everything you touch. The right people will always recognize the frequency of your truth. They may not look like you imagined. They may not arrive when you expect, but they will feel like home because their energy matches yours. You will know them by the ease they bring, the way conversation flows without effort, the way silence feels full rather than empty. You will recognize them not through excitement, but through peace. And so the journey of love becomes less about searching and more about aligning. The moment you accept yourself fully, you become a beacon for the kind of love that is meant for you. For in a world full of noise and pretense, there is nothing more magnetic, more unmistakably radiant than the quiet energy of a soul at peace with itself. And so, as you stand here in this moment, breathing, alive, becoming, remember this: the love you have been searching for is not somewhere out there waiting to be discovered. It is already within you, quietly waiting to be awakened. You do not need to chase love, earn it, or beg for it. You need only to become it. When you honor your worth, embrace your wholeness, and walk boldly in your truth, life rearranges itself around your energy. The right people will find you, not because you sought them, but because your light called them home. Stop running from yourself. Stop dimming your flame to fit in with those who fear the fire. Stand tall in your authenticity. Speak your truth even when your voice trembles. Love yourself so completely that your very existence becomes a declaration of self-worth. Because the moment you do, you will stop surviving and start creating. You will stop searching and start attracting. You will stop waiting for love and start living as love. So walk into the world today as the masterpiece you already are. Let your self-love echo through your words, your choices, and your silence. Be the kind of person whose very presence reminds others of their own power to heal, to grow, to shine. The universe moves for those who move in alignment with themselves. So move fearlessly, love endlessly, and live unapologetically. Good luck, my friend, and thank you. The world has been waiting for the light only you can bring.